Talk with Rock. I am Ted Rock Costas.
And I'm Dr. Galen.
And as a special guest today, we have Mr. Marika.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
All right, how are you, Mr. Marika?
I'm doing very well, actually. Thank you for asking.
All right. Now, let's get right down to business.
All right.
The first question we have for you
Yes.
is regarding the current political state in the United States. How do you think Hillary's recent health problems in New York will affect her campaign?
Well, it can't help but affect it. Hillary, her health concerns are not of major worry, but the fact that it had been kept secret for a couple of days, her near collapse after the 9/11 memorial service, people began questioning, well, if she was hiding this, what else might she be hiding? I believe that isn't really a concern. People are trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, but her health, as far as we can tell, is fine. But people are looking for issues. They're looking for controversy.
So you don't think that it's really going to affect her campaign, where it's just going to become a point of controversy amongst her,
That's a good question. I think it might it might affect her campaign, but I don't think it's going to have a major impact on her campaign. It's something that she will have to address, and she's begun addressing already.
Well, that's the first question.
All right.
The second question is, how do you think Trump's issue with Mexico will affect his campaign?
Oh, it already is. Trump actually, I believe, has one of the lowest approval ratings amongst Latino voters ever. The fact is, there's a huge voting bloc of Latino voters, not only in California, but in many states. And by his comments being rather controversial, have alienated many, many voters. Those voters have grown in number, so much so that, for example, in California, people of Latino descent are the majority, not the minority now, over 50%. And that's the trend in many states around the Southwest and in other urban areas. So Trump he will need to work on trying to get some of those voters, but I'm afraid the damage has already been done. I don't think he will be able to get back some of those voters.
It is also worth saying that some of the controversy he has caused in Mexico, when he in fact traveled to Mexico to talk with government officials.
Absolutely. In fact, as you may or may not know, the government official that invited Trump to Mexico had to resign over the controversy. They never expected Trump to actually go to Mexico. They invited both candidates, and they were hoping Hillary would go and Trump wouldn't, and vice versa happened. And it ended up being not a good PR move for the Mexican government. And even their conversation was in dispute as to what was spoken. So it's a mess.
Also not good for foreign relations.
At least for one country, yeah.
All right.
So we're going to be shifting gears a little bit from the election to Obama.
Mm-hmm.
So Obama's daughter, Malia, was recently caught doing drugs. Based on that, what is your opinion on this issue? Do you think people will look at Obama differently, possibly from a parent's point of view?
Some might, but I don't believe that is reflective of a parent. I'm a parent of 3 children myself, 7, 5, and 2. Now, I know they're not teenagers yet, but I can tell you, sometimes children will just do something, and all you can really do is handle the repercussions of their actions. I don't think that, I don't in any way believe that President Obama condoned what his daughter did, but at the same time, it's a personal issue between a father and a daughter. They are the ones who should be handling it, and it really isn't a national issue in any way, shape, or form. If people want to make it a national issue, what they're doing, in my opinion, is intruding on the privacy of a young girl.
So you think that people should basically just stay out of this whole issue and let it be between Obama and his daughter?
Absolutely, I do. Yes.
All right. Next up, so Obama is about to leave office. You have about 2 more months with him left as president.
Mm-hmm.
What was your opinion on him as president of the United States, and why?
Well, first of all, there's the historic aspect of being the first African-American president ever. But in terms of his performance in the White House, he has a mixed record. He has some good and some bad. For the most part, I believe history will view it as a positive administration, for the most part. It definitely helps out in his first term. We killed bin Laden. That definitely was a nice feather in the cap. And as controversial as people have with Obamacare, the Affordable Health Care Act, it has increased the number of Americans who have insurance by approximately 20 million Americans, without having a government-sponsored healthcare program, which was amazing, actually. Now, some people are going to be against it on philosophical reasons. That you'll never get to. Some people just hate it for philosophy, and that's their opinion. And in America, they have that opinion. They have the right to have that opinion. But in terms of achievement and how he'll be viewed, he probably will be viewed in a positive light as time goes on.
Now, some doctors say that they're not too crazy about the idea of Obamacare because they're not making as much money when the Obamacare insurance is just paying for it. What do you say to that?
Well, I think I definitely have heard that argument, and it is definitely an argument that can be made and has been made. However, the bigger issue is not so much Obamacare as much as it is increasing HMO costs. HMOs and PPOs have gone unchecked for a very long time. The doctors themselves actually don't get, I believe, a fair share of the HMO money. Most of the money goes toward lawyers and insurance than the actual medicine. So I think the system itself needs to be revamped. The doctors definitely, I think, should have more of a say in what happens. And if you want to be able to see your doctor, well, under Obamacare, you would be able to as long as you went to the highest plan possible, which does then does push some patients out of who they would like to see as a doctor. It is give and take. It's not perfect by any means, but my personal opinion is that it has improved for the most part, but there is room for improvement.
So overall, you consider Obama to be a pretty decent president?
Overall, yes.
So do you think...
Not perfect.
Right. Well, nobody's perfect,
Yes.
but do you think Trump or Hillary could live up to his standards?
Honestly, I don't think either one really could. I'm not saying that he has the greatest standards. He's not a Theodore Roosevelt. Don't get me wrong. Theodore Roosevelt, as everyone should know, is the greatest president that's ever lived. But he will go down in a positive light. Hillary has too many scandals that will be haunting her, whether it be Whitewater from the Arkansas days or Benghazi or the email scandal. Trump is just another scandal after scandal, whether it deals with Islam or Mexican Americans or the treatment of detainees. They both are going to have an uphill battle in regards to how the public will view them. As controversial as Obama may have been, I think we've only just seen the beginning of what public opinion has.
So definitely a rough path ahead.
I believe so. Yeah.
So there's like no one candidate this year that would stand out as to be this amazing candidate who could be the most perfect president, the next Roosevelt.
In my opinion, no. In my opinion, none of the candidates stand out as that. Some people say it's the lesser of two evils or three or four evils. To quote Ted Cruz, you have to vote your conscience.
All right. Well, if Hillary becomes the next president of the United States, Bill Clinton will become the first gentleman.
Yes.
How do you feel that he will? How do you feel about this role that he will have if he does?
I hope he becomes. I mean, just for the fact that he'd become the first gentleman alone, that's amazing. Not only was he one of the most beloved presidents, but as the role of first gentleman, taking over what the first lady would do, your role is PR, and that is his wheelhouse. He can go there and he can be in a room of 1,000 people, and if he's looking at you, it feels like you're the only person in that room. He can get actually things done beyond the White House, and so his influence cannot be underestimated. Basically, it's like having a president and a president 1.5.
So based on what you just said about Clinton being the first gentleman, I'm assuming that Hillary being a female doesn't make any difference to you.
No, and honestly, it shouldn't. Internationally, we've had female leaders. We've had Indira Gandhi in India. We've had Golda Meir in Israel. We've had Benazir Bhutto in Pakistan. We've had Margaret Thatcher in the UK.
Angela Merkel.
Angela Merkel in Germany, exactly right. And so it shouldn't be an issue. If it's an issue, it's because people still have, bits of sexist ideology.
Well, do you think that maybe she'd be getting more respect and have more authority if she were male, or getting less hate?
I do. It's sad to say that, but I do believe that she would have a much different road ahead of her and much different treatment if she were male than female. I just believe it's the case.
Some prejudices don't go away.
And they never have. Unfortunately, women are one of the most discriminated groups in America to this day.
Well, thank you for being on this show. I'm afraid that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us for A Talk with Rock. Join us next time.
That's it. Yeah. Very cool.